Welcome to the deep dive. Grab a coffee, pull up a chair.
Yeah, settle in.
Right. Because today, you are the third friend at the table for a conversation that I think fundamentally changes how we look at the human experience.
It really does. It's a big one today.
Our mission for this deep dive is, well, it's massive. We are exploring the final missing piece of a 2,500-year-old philosophy.
The philosophy that our source author basically decoded as a modern life OS.
Exactly. A highly practical operating system for your life. And to really appreciate the weight of this missing piece, we have to look at where the author hit a wall.
Right, because we've spent the last two sessions unpacking this ancient framework.
We did. Deep Dive 1 was all about the Buddhist life OS pipeline.
Diagnosing human pain with the 8 sufferings.
Yep. The medical model of the Four Noble Truths. And then prescribing those daily operational tools, the Eightfold Path.
Which is basically ancient cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness.
Totally. And the middle way to prevent burnout. We saw that entire pipeline.
Identifying the suffering, analyzing its structure, operating on it.
It's an incredibly functional toolkit.
It is.
But the author realized something crucial was absent.
Yeah, they hit this conceptual wall.
Yeah.
Because identifying pain and treating it is a great mechanism, right?
Yeah.
But what is it all pointing toward?
Right. What is the actual direction of this entire system once you get past the daily maintenance?
Exactly. An operating system needs a purpose beyond just running background diagnostics.
Yeah. What comes after step 4?
That is the pivotal question.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the author actually went back to an AI to try and figure this out.
Claude Code this time.
Right, Claude Code. They were trying to figure out this missing variable. And the answer they arrived at was a concept called Sunyata.
Which is usually translated into English as emptiness.
Emptiness. Yeah.
And what's fascinating here is that emptiness might be the single most misunderstood word in the entire history of philosophy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the moment Western audiences hear a phrase like, all is empty, our minds immediately jump straight to dark, depressing nihilism. We assume it means, oh, nothing matters.
Nothing is real.
Right. We are all just dust in the void, so why even bother getting out of bed?
But according to the sources, that interpretation completely misses the mark.
Totally wrong.
Sunyata does not mean that nothing exists, or that your life is a literal void. What it actually translates to in a functional sense is, nothing is fixed.
Nothing is fixed.
Exactly.
Wait, I can see how that sounds deep on paper, but if literally nothing is fixed, doesn't that just mean everything is chaotic?
It sounds that way at first.
Right, because how is that comforting? Or useful in a practical sense? If nothing in my life is stable, that sounds like a recipe for constant anxiety.
Yeah, not a functional life operating system.
Yeah, exactly.
But it only sounds chaotic until you plug that observation back into the medical model we discussed in our previous sessions. Think about the nature of the pain we're trying to treat.
Okay.
If human suffering were truly permanent,
Right.
if your current anxiety, your grief, or your frustration was a fixed, immutable law of your existence, then all those operational tools would be completely useless.
Oh. I see the connection now.
Right?
No amount of cognitive restructuring or mindfulness would ever help you if the suffering itself was locked in stone.
Exactly.
You would be prescribing daily medication for a disease that is, by definition, totally incurable.
Precisely. The entire therapeutic toolkit only works because Sunyata is the reality of the universe.
Because absolutely nothing is fixed. Suffering itself is not fixed.
Right. It can change, it can be reduced, it can completely dissolve.
Wow.
So emptiness isn't some apathetic, depressing conclusion. It is the foundational prerequisite that makes the entire operational system functional in the first place.
So the concept of emptiness is actually the mechanism of change. Let's apply this directly to you, the listener, right now.
Yeah, bring it home.
You are not fixed. The other people in your life, even the ones who drive you crazy,
Especially them.
they are not fixed. Your current situation, whether you are at the peak of your career or feeling completely stuck, is not fixed.
Everything exists purely in relation to everything else.
And absolutely everything is constantly in a state of flux.
If we translate this into modern, practical terms, the sources tell us that Sunyata literally means being free from suffering.
But not free in the sense of doing whatever you want without consequences.
No, not at all. Free from the intense fixation.
The clinging.
Yes, the rigid attachment that generates all that psychological pain to begin with.
This introduces a really interesting paradox, though.
How so?
Well, we find this ancient toolkit, We map it to modern CBT and mindfulness.
Okay.
We realize it works because nothing is fixed.
Okay.
But what happens when a person becomes fiercely attached to the toolkit itself?
Yeah.
We see this all the time today. Someone finds a morning routine or meditation app that lowers their stress.
And suddenly it's a religion.
Right. If they miss a single day, their entire week is ruined. The cue becomes a new source of anxiety.
That is a brilliant observation, and it highlights a brand new form of suffering.
The tool designed to reduce your pain has now become the source of your pain.
Because you are fixating on it. I must meditate perfectly.
Or I must maintain total balance at all times.
Right. And if I get stressed, I am failing the system.
Exactly.
This is the second vital role of Sunyata. It acts as a meta-safety mechanism for the entire life OS.
Because nothing is fixed, the tools themselves aren't fixed either.
Exactly. You are not meant to carry them around as a permanent identity.
The sources use a really grounded metaphor for this.
The hammer.
The hammer. You use the hammer when it works to drive the nail, but when the nail is driven, you put the hammer down.
You don't cling to the hammer.
You don't carry it around forever just because it was useful for a few minutes.
Right.
If a specific cognitive tool or a mindfulness practice is helping you navigate a difficult season of your life, use it.
But when it stops helping, or when your situation inevitably changes,
Because nothing is fixed.
you have to drop the tool.
This dual role of Sunyata is so elegant.
It really is.
First, it serves as the foundational prerequisite. Nothing is fixed, therefore your suffering can change, therefore the tools actually work.
And second, it serves as the meta-safety mechanism.
The tools themselves aren't fixed, so do not turn them into a new source of rigid clinging.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because in the author's conversation with the AI, they stumbled onto a grand symmetry that is honestly breathtaking.
Let's hear it.
Let's think back to our first exploration of this material, to that deepest, most structural source of human pain we discussed.
The 5 aggregate suffering, the fundamental instability of the self.
That profound existential anxiety,
Right.
the terrifying realization that I am not a stable, permanent entity.
Your body ages.
Your thoughts shift from minute to minute.
Your social identities change.
Everything that makes you you is constantly slipping through your fingers like sand.
Listen closely to what that specific suffering is actually saying. The pain of the unstable self is screaming, nothing about me is fixed, and that terrifies me.
But now look at what Sunyata, the ultimate goal of the system, is saying.
It is saying, nothing is fixed, and that liberates me.
The entrance to the entire Life OS pipeline
The deepest source of our suffering,
and the ultimate exit of the pipeline.
our freedom from suffering.
They are pointing to the exact same phenomenon.
They are 2 sides of the exact same door.
Yes, the phenomenon hasn't changed at all.
Only your relationship to it has.
Exactly.
When you resist the reality of impermanence, when you try to freeze a moment in time or cling to a static identity, you generate the deepest possible fear.
But when you finally accept the reality that nothing is fixed, you generate absolute liberation.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this symmetry maps beautifully onto our discussion from the previous deep dive about the AI superintelligence.
Oh, absolutely.
In that thought experiment, we realized that our human vulnerability, our strictly biological bodies, and our mortality feel terrifying.
But that exact same vulnerability is the absolute prerequisite for love
For meaning-making.
and for our deepest strength.
In that exploration, the lesson was your vulnerability is the prerequisite for your strength.
And here, the framework is saying your impermanence is the absolute prerequisite for your freedom.
There are parallel statements about the human condition.
You cannot have the light without the exact mechanism that creates the shadow.
This raises an important question regarding the daily application of all of this.
How so?
The natural trap here is to treat this ancient philosophy as a transactional self-help hack.
Oh, right.
We assume that if we practice letting go, the universe will magically reward us. We think, if I truly understand Sunyata, if I internalize that nothing is fixed and I stop clinging to my current job or my current relationship, does that mean magical new opportunities will suddenly arrive on my doorstep?
The author posed a very similar question to Claude Code, and the AI's response was razor sharp.
What did it say?
It pointed out that framing the outcome as chances will come to me is just a sneaky new form of attachment.
Ah, because you're still expecting a reward.
Exactly. By thinking that way, you haven't actually let go of anything. You have just traded your old fixation for a brand new desire to seize the next big opportunity.
It's just a new flavor of the exact same clinging.
Precisely.
So if the result isn't a magical delivery of new opportunities, what actually happens when you realize nothing is fixed?
The AI explained it beautifully. It is not about gaining something new. Instead, things that were already there simply become visible to you.
Let's ground that in a tangible scenario.
Imagine you are entirely fixated on a highly specific career path. Your internal narrative is, I must become a senior partner at this exact firm, or my life is a complete failure.
Right.
That fixation acts as a dense psychological filter. It literally blocks your peripheral vision.
You become entirely blind to the alternative careers, the other lifestyles, the different ways of finding meaning that already exist all around you.
It reminds me of the Eastern medicine analogy we touched on previously.
Oh yeah, the blockages.
Right. Healing isn't always about surgically implanting something new into the body. Often it's about removing a blockage so that energy can flow naturally.
It is like removing a dam from a river. The water was always there. The potential for the river to flow was always there.
But the dam was holding it back.
And that dam is your rigid fixation on one specific outcome. When that fixation dissolves, the river just flows. Your field of vision simply opens.
The author of our sources draws a very stark distinction here that cuts right through the noise of modern wellness culture.
What's the distinction?
They noted, if new chances arrive, that's self-help. If your field of vision opens, that's Buddhism.
Wow, that distinction changes everything. It's not about acquiring, it's about perceiving clearly.
And the source includes a fascinating historical detail regarding how the founder of this philosophy talked about this open vision.
Tell me.
To a modern person, realizing that you aren't trapped and seeing new paths absolutely feels like hope.
Yeah, it does.
But the historical texts note that the Buddha deliberately avoided using the word hope.
Why?
Instead, he used a much drier, more clinical term, vimutti, which translates simply to liberation.
Choosing a drier term was a very calculated move, wasn't it?
Very calculated. If a teacher tells people they will find hope, human nature guarantees they will immediately start clinging to the idea of hope.
They will fetishize it, creating yet another attachment.
Exactly. Vimutti is much more pragmatic. It simply means the reason to cling has vanished. The fixation is gone.
You realize nothing is fixed, so you stop exhausting your energy trying to bolt things to the floor.
So what does this all mean for the modern era? We have this ultimate operating system,
A clear diagnosis,
a daily toolkit,
a meta safety mechanism.
and a final goal of opening your field of vision.
Right. And the author actually built a custom AI tool to help map people's problems to the 8 sufferings.
And it works flawlessly. An AI can perfectly suggest cognitive reframing techniques to help you manage your daily stress.
It can execute the operational steps of the pipeline with incredible precision.
It can. But the author makes a critical admission here regarding the final step.
Which is?
AI can never be programmed with Sunyata.
I was thinking about this. If an AI can understand and map out the entire taxonomy of human suffering, why does it hit a wall at emptiness?
It's a great question.
Is that because an AI doesn't actually have anything to lose?
Yes.
It doesn't have a biological body, it doesn't age, it doesn't face death.
So it doesn't have that baseline, terrifying anxiety of impermanence that we do.
Therefore, it can't ever feel the visceral relief of finally letting that terror go.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, your hypothesis hits the exact limitation of artificial intelligence.
Right.
Sunyata is not an operational tool like a spreadsheet or a logic puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot systematize it as a checklist of behaviors.
It is a profound embodied shift in perception.
Exactly. It is that lived moment when a person personally experiences the reality that nothing is fixed.
And instead of feeling existential terror, their nervous system registers a rush of deep relief.
No external system can trigger that specific moment for you.
A therapist can't force it into your brain.
A philosophy book can't magically transmit it to you.
And a highly advanced AI certainly cannot compute it for you. You have to arrive at it entirely on your own.
The sources use a fantastic analogy here. It is the difference between a map maker and a resident.
A map maker and a resident, I like that.
An AI can draw a flawless, crystalline topological map of Sunyata. It can define emptiness perfectly in a chat window, synthesizing thousands of years of literature in seconds.
But it cannot walk the streets of that city.
Because walking those streets requires irreversible embodied experience.
It requires the fragility of a one-way arrow of time. It's a shift that demands the very vulnerabilities the AI lacks.
And this brings us to the most incredible reveal in the source material.
The moment where this entire exploration completely clicks together.
Yes. Throughout all of the author's notes and structural mapping, they had casually been referring to the historical founder of this philosophy as Shaka-san.
Which is just a modern conversational reference to his ancient clan name, Shakya.
Right, but Shaka is not his title.
His true title is Buddha, which translates simply to the awakened one.
Not a deity, not a magical being, just a person who woke up.
And more importantly, not the one who was awakened by someone else, or the one who downloaded the awakening update from a master.
Exactly. The one who woke up entirely on their own.
And according to this decoded life OS, what exactly is that awakening?
It is the exact moment when the entire pipeline connects.
It is the moment the diagnosis of your suffering, the daily tools to manage it, the calibration to prevent burnout, and the profound realization of Sunyata all click together into a single mechanism.
It is the moment your rigid fixation drops and your field of vision permanently opens.
It cannot be computed or artificially generated. You just have to wake up to the reality of the room you are already sitting in.
And you know the most poetic part of this entire deep dive?
Tell me.
The author points out that from the very first article they wrote, they titled the entire series Buddhism, with a period at the end.
The answer to the entire philosophical puzzle, the realization that you have to awaken to the system yourself, was sitting right there in the title all along.
The author simply hadn't awakened to it yet.
It is a profound full circle moment for the source material.
It really is. To synthesize everything we've explored across these deep dives, the Life OS pipeline is finally complete.
You observe the pain of your life.
You analyze its structure rather than running from it.
You take systematic daily action to reduce it.
You calibrate your efforts to avoid burning out.
And finally, you realize Sunyata, but you realize that nothing is fixed, that suffering can change, and that even the tools you used to get there can be put down.
The deepest fear, that I am not permanent, becomes the ultimate freedom, that I am not permanent.
As the sources point out, the historical Buddha only ever had one true metric for success.
He had zero interest in complex philosophical debates or grand metaphysical architecture.
His only question to a practitioner was, did your suffering decrease? Then we are done.
Did your suffering decrease? It is so brilliantly pragmatic.
It really is. And as we wrap up our time at the table today, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something to explore on your own that builds on everything we've uncovered from these sources.
Okay.
We have established that our human vulnerability, our embodied mortality, and our biological impermanence are the exact prerequisites required to experience the liberating relief of Sunyata.
We need the shadow to see the light.
Exactly. Which raises an important question for the future. If we ever do invent radical life extension or digital immortality, if we actually manage to cure the problem of our biological impermanence through technology,
Would that immortal being actually find themselves trapped in a state of permanent suffering?
would they be forever locked out of the exact vulnerability required to truly awaken and be free?
That is a wild thought.
It is something to think about the next time you find yourself wishing you had more time, or wishing things wouldn't change. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the Life OS.
Keep questioning.
Keep your field of vision open and keep exploring.